Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz. In this video, I will be discussing and recapping the key factors of this super fight, along with my own prediction, and then discussing your predictions. Yes, that's right, I'm going to be discussing the predictions that you made in the comment section when I first put out a video about this fight. But I also want you to comment on this video, so jump down to the comment section below and let's continue to debate this fight. And remember, hit the subscribe button. So we've got Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz. It's taking place March the 3rd, 2018, Barclays Center, New York, and it's going to be a massive fight. It's taking place, as I say, on the 3rd, and this is a huge night of boxing. It's probably the biggest night of boxing so far for 2018. We've got cards all around the world with some pretty interesting fights. But this one, this has to be the biggest. This is the WBC Heavyweight Championship on the line. Many people are saying it's the biggest test Deontay Wilder's had to date against the big Cuban Luis Ortiz. So as I said at the start of this video, I have already done a prediction on this video, and if you want to check this out, click on the button in the top right hand corner and jump across that video and check out my full prediction of this video. As I was saying, in this video we're going to be predominantly talking about the comments that you guys made. A lot of interesting comments there, okay? But let's just recap, some of the thoughts on this fight. As I alluded to, this is being seen as the biggest test of Deontay Wilder's career. He's been the champion now for about 3 years, having beaten Stiverne. He's then defended that against some relatively low-level opposition, predominantly US based. He kind of has avoided or been avoided by some of the bigger European fighters, and we all know what happened with the Povetkin fight that was scheduled to take place in Russia that was cancelled. Everyone in boxing that loves heavyweight boxing was super excited for that fight because it was really going to legitimize Deontay Wilder's heavyweight standing as possibly the #1 heavyweight in the world. That fight never happened. He then went on to fight, these lower ranked guys, which is a bit of a shame for me, until he meets Ortiz. Now again, Ortiz has a massive reputation as a slick boxer, good counter puncher, superb power, a long amateur record without really winning anything of note, but again has not really fought high level opposition. We're talking about Tony Thompson and Jennings being his biggest victories, but the Tony Thompson was well past his sell by date, and Jennings, limited. As much as a fan of him I am, he is limited, okay? So we're talking about two guys that are towards the higher level of the division, but they are yet to have real standout, notable, great victories that cement themselves as legitimate top guys in the way that Anthony Joshua has against the great Wladimir Klitschko. So what do I think about this fight? I think it's an interesting fight. It's a styles fight. Obviously we've got the rangy, athletic, power punching Wilder against the counter punching, more methodical, slick Ortiz. For me, as I predicted, I believe that Deontay Wilder will win this fight. I think he's going to have too much for Wilder. For Ortiz, sorry. I think Ortiz is probably too long in the tooth. I think he will struggle to close the distance too often. I think if Wilder fights cleverly, he will be able to use his size, his reach, his athleticism to stay out of reach. But we've seen, there were hints like against Washington that he didn't quite do that. But no, we're talking about another 6 months down the line. You'd like to think there's been more training, that a better game plan has been implemented, because there is the perception that we're moving on to a much higher skilled boxer, okay? And we've seen with Ortiz that despite the victories that he's had, he takes a lot of rounds off. He does not have the stamina to keep going for the full round and for multiple rounds, and that is obviously an issue. Okay, so let's move on to the questions, the feedback, the predictions that you guys made. Okay, so let's bring up YouTube and start talking about what you guys said. So the first one, Christian Thomas: I think Ortiz will win by KO. He's hungrier and he's ready to get onto the world stage, in my opinion. Now, we'll be talking about this a little bit more later. There's a similar comment that kind of talks about this, which is pretty interesting. Next one, Liam E69. A couple of years ago, I would have confidently picked Ortiz, but I think the fight might have come too late for him. I really don't know. So that is an interesting one. Again, from 19822 Andy, I really don't know, man. I really don't know. Well, there's two things going for him: his unorthodox approach and the huge power that has been well documented. I would pick Ortiz, but Wilder's power is a great equalizer. If Luis Ortiz can find a way to nullify Wilder's power, then it's an easy Ortiz win. Okay, one thing I just wanted to mention, I did go through the comments earlier, went through them, and there was like about 44% sway towards Wilder. Okay, but that doesn't mean that there was a 56% sway towards Ortiz, because we had about a 27% that was undecided. So Ortiz had about 29%. So it seemed to be that people were favouring Wilder just. Okay, so here we go. Sean Avelli, I think it's 50-50. Easy spot, mate. I agree with you about people's rating of Ortiz. I honestly think he's overrated and slow. Dare I say, Wilder sleeps him in 3 rounds. See, that's the thing I spoke about Ortiz. A lot of people put him in their rankings in the top 3. They say that he should be, he's the most avoided fighter. He should be a champion. But the fact is that what I was trying to say in my prediction was that we just haven't seen that. He hasn't been in with a credible top-level opponents. So it's all well and good saying that he's the best heavyweight out there, but you have to prove it. You actually have to prove it against legitimate opposition. John Savage, Ortiz by KO, Carmelo Anthony, Wilder by KO. This is going to be fight of the year. Kingy, I think Ortiz wins by KO within 5 rounds. Ortiz in less than 10. Wilder would win by KO in the early rounds if he catches Ortiz with one of his lucky wide right hooks. Interesting, John Archer, I give Wilder big props for taking this fight. Fight of the year, 50-50. Who wants it the most? Okay. Stress luck, King Kong will win. Wilder cannot handle Ortiz's superior technical skill. That's very important, because during the fight you will see Ortiz dominating the ring with Wilder running around the outside. Wilder will avoid Ortiz. Now, this is the case. We're talking about superior technical ability from Ortiz, okay? And as the fact is, I said, we haven't really seen him beat a high-level fighter, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have those technical skills. Every now and again, we see someone put on a masterclass that kind of shocks us. Billy Joe Saunders, the back end of last year, we all knew that he was a quality boxer, but what he was able to do against Lemieux was he absolutely schooled him. He nullified every offense that he had, okay? And we could see that here. We could see this here, that Wilder just can't figure out, the superior skills, the nuances that Ortiz brings to the table. Cerebral Dome. All Cuban fighters have good amateur skills, but it doesn't translate into the pro rank. He gets smoked within 7 rounds. Fungus Papa, Wilder by knockout, biggest fight in heavyweight right now. Ortiz the better fighter, however, Wilder more explosive and has been fighting the better opposition. Wilder wants it more. Okay. Niall O'Sullivan, Wilder to make a statement of intent. I have to question Ortiz's age. Now, people have spoken about this. I think he's right. He's meant to be about 40, I think. But a lot of people say that he's older than that. I've had a number of people say that he was sparring Lennox Lewis. Now, I've gone online and I've tried to find footage, tried to find something that can kind of prove or, you know, balance, just tell me whether that's true or not. I haven't really been able to find it. If anyone's got anything about that they can send through to me to tell me that he was sparring Lennox Lewis, that would be pretty damn interesting. Lewis Stefan, Wilder can be very evasive. He likes the distance. Don't know if Ortiz can stay close enough to be effective. That's an interesting thing, because that's what I said. If we talk about Wilder's, you know, the game plan that he should be executing, it should be that he should be boxing. He should be boxing on the outside, using that range to try and land those shots to frustrate Ortiz. Because we saw Ortiz, he got very frustrated against Malik Scott. Okay, despite the fact that it was comprehensive victory, he drops Malik Scott multiple times. He was so frustrated that Malik Scott was moving. You know, if you take that to Wilder, with Wilder's power and punching ability, it could really frustrate Ortiz. Lloyd Christmas, great name. I don't think Ortiz's age will be an issue at all. Heavyweights, weirdly enough, are still really good later in age. I think Ortiz will win the fight. Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, we see heavyweights go on later in their age. Predominantly, they're slower, they're more power balanced. But, you know, we're talking about Wilder, who is quite athletic, okay? So, you know, it's interesting. Ashley Gray, it baffles me how people are saying Wilder will take him out in 3 rounds when Ortiz is going to be his biggest test yet. 100%. The perception is that Luis Ortiz is his biggest test, and I would probably say he is the biggest test, okay? Because Deontay Wilder has not fought against high-level opposition. So it is such a difficult one to really, you know, decide and predict, okay? Clarence, Wilder by KO. Mr. Dixon, wow, this is a long comment. Wilder does get out of the way of punches well, a bit in a very unorthodox leaning jumping way. He sees and avoids rights especially well. When caught, it mostly seems to be with the left. Ortiz counter left will make Wilder shy of leaning in with his own right. What will be interesting is when Wilder does go back and how he copes with a fighter who will keep pressing forward and firing. Wilder is jittery in defence and retreats easily, etc., etc. I mean, all very interesting, and, you know, agree with those points. Dave Clark, what if Wilder injures himself and a 50-50 fight? I mean, yes, that's self-explanatory. Blair Fraser, don't be fooled. Deontay was ordered by the WC to fight his mandatory and would have everyone believe that he chose Luis, just like he have everyone believe that he chose the Povetkin fight. He was ordered by the WBC, just like he calls out fighters who have signed contracts, making them unavailable for the foreseeable future. Wilder is facing a live opponent, and it's about time at the 32 years. I agree. I mean, we know boxing politics is a very complex thing, and, you know, they're all trying to get the advantage over others, trying to, you know, force fights or avoid fights, make money for the lowest risk, or try and get the biggest fights. It's a very complex thing. You know, it is what it is. Robert Rosenberg, Luis Ortiz by late round knockout. Marcus Garvey, very good and well dissected analyst. Thank you very much. He agrees with the points, but he sees Ortiz being totally blown away without any tactical ploys. There you go. John Archer, you know what's crazy? Win, lose or draw, Wilder is going to be looked at as the next undisputed heavyweight champion. It's going to surpass Joshua. I have to disagree with that. Joshua, regardless of what happens, will still be regarded as the premier heavyweight in the division, and yeah, that's not even really up for debate. Michael here, Deontay blows Ortiz away. Then we've got Luis Ortiz, Zimmer Frank. Great. I would have picked Ortiz to beat Wilder right up until the point where his lack of mobility and foot speed got exposed by Malik Scott. Just what I was talking about just a few minutes ago. Now I think Wilder holds some distinct and sizable advantages that go beyond his straight right hands. His athleticism, movement and speed will give Ortiz problems if Wilder keeps the fight on the outside and uses that quickness and movement to keep Ortiz at the end of his jab. If he does that, I believe he'll eventually catch Ortiz with the straight right hand and probably end the fight soon after. I mean, pretty much what I was talking about just a few moments ago. Yep, there you go. Someone else's video there. Sydney, Wilder by knockout in the early rounds. Jess, can't wait for that Wilder-Stavern trilogy. Yep. Fight won't happen. Wilder's people will find an out. Well, we're talking about 48 hours before the fight, so let's hope it doesn't fall away. Lastminute.com. Khalid, I want to say Ortiz. I have seen Ortiz can take a punch from Wilder, but I have to see if Ortiz can take a punch from Wilder. But I know if Ortiz catches Wilder, that will be interesting as well. Ortiz is highly skilled. I wouldn't say Ortiz fought weak opposition. Some boxers, yeah. Well, I would say they've both fought weak opposition. Taran Alexander the Great. Close fight, great fight. However, I have to make a prediction. I'm going with Wilder by KO in the 8th round. Jerry Mims. You can't wait when you're fighting Deontay Wilder. If Ortiz can beat up that body, he's got a good chance. Remember, Deontay Wilder is a wild fighter. At the time he swings, this is trouble for him. But if he's able to use that power and that jab by maintaining the footwork, he wins. Good points. King Kong by the 8th round. Victor Padilla, dangerous for Wilder, but he will be victorious. Sergio Ortiz fought Jennings with the flu. Who the hell does that? I mean, is that true? I mean, I don't know. Two biggest difference in styles predict. Wilder could lose to Ortiz and still go on to defeat Joshua, who is more predictable. I mean, yeah, okay. Kingo Kingy, make Ortiz quit. I think Ortiz is far too old to quit. Now, this is something I made the point in my prediction video that it wouldn't surprise me if Ortiz quits on his stall or whatever after taking, just being completely frustrated, not being able to really get close. If Wilder executes a great game plan and uses his athleticism and his natural abilities, to really frustrate him. All your points are fair, but I think Ortiz will school and stop Wilder within 8 rounds. He'll slow down Wilder with body shots that will allow him to get closer to the bronze bomber and eventually counter him. In the first half of the fight, Wilder will try and stay out of trouble using the jab and athletic, though off balance. Footwork similar to what Scott tried to without running away like a chicken, hoping that it's Ortiz that slows him down. Naturally, Wilder will throw bombs here and there, but they won't work on Ortiz, who will read Wilder to perfection and avoid getting properly hit. I mean, these are good points, and it wouldn't surprise me if this happens. But what I would say is that in the difference to what we've seen in the past, I mean, Ortiz has taken rounds off, and he's got away with it in the past because he's hurt his opponent, and they've been kind of apprehensive about really doing anything. So he's been able to conserve his energy. Will he be able to do this against Wilder? That's one of the interesting factors of this fight for me. Andrew Brown, I don't think age is a factor here, and I think Ortiz will take Wilder into deep rounds. Could go either way. Bikerman 690. Top man, the current version of Ortiz is too slow to be a real threat. He got Daniel Martz out in the same time as Jennings did, though he's still a top-level boxer, but not good enough to beat Wilder, I think. But really looking forward to this fight. Let's hope nothing drug-related happens. 2008 is going to be the year of boxing. Great comment. I mean, I have to agree here. We know that Ortiz, multiple drug test failures, which is horrendous. It really frustrates all of us. We don't want to see these guys, testing positive, because it makes a mockery of the sport. It ruins careers. It ruins opportunities for other people. Because once it's on the sheet, once the results in the bag, a lot of people, they look past that. History, when they look back at results a couple of years down the line, most people aren't going to remember that Ortiz failed these drugs tests and these fights. They're just going to look, he's got the win. That's the problem, okay? But yeah, I just thought this would be an interesting, different one where we talk about your predictions, okay? Because this big fight is happening this weekend. It's huge. It's monumental. It really shakes things up. It legitimizes Deontay Wilder as a top champion. It then pushes him in the shop window to possibly get the Anthony Joshua fight. They're talking about 2 Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder fights at the back end of this year. if he can get past Ortiz. So, you know, there's potential for huge fights. We've got so many great heavyweight fights taking place this year, already scheduled in the next 6 weeks. It's going to be a fantastic year for heavyweight boxing. So if you've got any comments, jump down to the comment section in this video. Let me know what you think. It'd be great. And remember, if you want to check out my full prediction on this, jump to the channel. Check out that video as and when you can. And remember, hit the subscribe for all the big fight predictions. I'll see you soon.